Five, four, three, two, one.
You have a rich personal history with the state of Florida and swimming in Florida and your experience as an athlete. Talk to us a little bit about what your experience was like growing up in swimming and who some of your biggest influencers are.
Well, I feel like I'm very, very lucky in a lot of ways. So I was a great age grouper. I was a good high school swimmer. I was a mediocre college swimmer, probably an early developer by most people's standards. That has definitely made me look at the progression of what we do a little differently. I would be lying if I told you that that didn't have an effect on me. And I mean, I was one of those guys that at 11 or 12 years old swimming in the senior group, 10 or 11 times and lifting weights and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd like to think that I've learned a lot from that, and a great experience. I mean, I don't see it as a negative really at all. It's just different looking back on it now that I'm a little bit older and can reflect on it. But I think the real when I start to look, when you kind of asked me, I have a few things ready, so I was kind of thinking about kind of my progression of swimming and how lucky I have actually been, and not to just go through a name drop, but my first swim coach was well, my first real influential swim coach was Mike Heath, who was a 1984 Olympian. That was in Jacksonville. Moved into Orlando. I swam for Mitch Ivy, Bill Peak, and his assistants. And anybody who doesn't know those guys, they should look them up. I swam for Clay Parnell, who is probably one of the most uh, uh, decorated high school coaches in Florida and maybe the country, and just consistent. He's been there for forever. Um, I swam for Arthur Albiero at University of Alabama and Don Wagner at University of Alabama, Glenn Newfield for a year. After I left Alabama, I got to work with Nancy Hennessy and Chris Oliver, who again I think are some of the most underrated coaches on the planet. If you don't know them, you should look them up. They worked for John Morse for a long time and have got me connected to John Morse. And then I started working with the University of Florida with Coach Troy, Coach Nesty, Coach Wilby. And so that was the beginning of my career where I was coaching 8 and unders at the same time I was working with Olympic champions. And I think there's compounding with my background and my growth as an athlete, having that experience of coaching 8 and unders at the same time you're coaching world record holders. I think if I was telling somebody to go learn to coach, like that's how you get to do it. And I kind of fell into it. I don't want anybody to think that it was like some premeditated thing. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time and took advantage of an opportunity. And so then at that point, I was, I'm working the full coaching grind, right? 5 o'clock in the morning until 8:30 at night. I'm doing everything from 8 and unders to masters to, standing on the deck whenever I can, whenever anybody's, swimming fast, I want to be there. And you do that stuff when you're young and you don't have a bunch of things to tie you down. And then I had to start making a living, and Steve Brown called me, which again kind of goes back to my uh, age group career. I think he was the zone head coach when I was on a zone team when I was 13 years old or something like that. And so he called me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come down to Sarasota? I don't have a whole lot of money, but I got a job, full-time job." And I was like, "Does it have benefits?" And he was like, "Yep." And I was like, "All right, I'll be there." And the rest here is kind of history and learning from Sherwood and Steve, Sherwood Watson, Steve Brown, about running a bigger club and kind of a tradition of excellence.